All right. Okay, everyone. Sorry, I'm running behind. Um, Technology. You know how it goes. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you for joining my stream. My name is Mark Principato, Mark P Markets, and I'm going to explain to you how this thing works in case you are new to my stream here. So first, I'm going to go over the economic calendar. I see Stian. Nice job. I'm going to go over the economic calendar, which is something that you should do every Monday. Second, I'm going to go into my Bitcoin price action analysis. We're going to talk about how to adjust your stop for the short trade that I called, because there's an important lesson in that. Okay. And then third, I'm going to answer your questions about stocks or altcoins. If you have a question, let me just move this over here. So if you have a question, now would be the time to put it in the channel. I'm streaming on YouTube and on TradingView. Let me just emphasize one important thing. Make sure if it's an altcoin to put USD after the symbol. Okay. A week ago, someone mentioned NEO and I talked about the stock for like 5 hours and they wanted to see the coin. So make sure you put USD if it's a coin so I get the symbol correctly. By the time I see the chat, it's like, 3 hours have gone by. So please make sure to do that. Okay. Also, if you'd like to share what country or what city that you are from, that's always a fun fact. I'm streaming from the greater New York City area, also known as New Jersey, and explains why I talk the way I do. All right, everyone. So let's just say hello real quick. We got Alex from Romania. We got Raman. How are you? Alex, James, good to see you. Bill, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Anthony, Steen, Levant. All right, Peter, good to see you all my regulars. All right, let me just refresh my TradingView screen here. By the way, TradingView people, if you can't see me, make sure to refresh the screen. Okay, that seems to fix the problem there when we have that problem. Otherwise, first, let's talk about the economic calendar, and then I'll make my screen bigger here. Also, one thing I have to mention, before I get into my Bitcoin portion, I do want to mention a couple of stocks in regard to my auto setups. Okay, there's been some questions about that. Auto setups are just basically a screener, and the information is pushed into a channel. And people don't seem to like it very much or not very comfortable with this idea of a robot that's basically calling trades, if you could think of it like that. So I want to talk about that a little bit and explain exactly what's going on for those who have access to it. Also, one other quick announcement. On Wednesday, I'm not going to stream on Wednesday during the AM session like normal because I have a student meeting. We're going to do a student meeting that afternoon. So people have access to that. I haven't put the link out yet, but I will either today or tomorrow, and you can register for Wednesday. Okay, again, that's for people who have access to that. All right, I just want to mention that now. So the Wednesday stream that I usually conduct, I am not going to conduct it at that regular time. It's going to be in the afternoon for people who have access to that. All right, okay, let's move along. So economic calendar. Now let's go over that first. So as you know, I usually try to force people into looking at it because this is something that you should be in the habit of doing. Okay. Yeah, let me just move this over here so I can see what's going on here on TradingView. You should be looking at that. And the idea is to spot any kind of important economic events that you should prepare for the coming week in case you have to mitigate risk. It's not about looking for big home run trades. It's about controlling your risk, especially if you have positions on. Okay, so you want to be aware of what's going on. So I see Stian comes out with that right away because he knows. See, Stian thinks ahead. He's anticipating. Good job. Also a longtime student. PMI on Wednesday and Friday. Also consumer confidence. Yes. So of all the reports that are on, there's a number of reports, but most of them you have to understand, and this is the whole lesson behind the economic calendar. Most of it is not important information, especially if it's non-US. That's just the way it is because the dollar is the world reserve currency. Hey man, I don't make these rules up. It's just the way it is. But you need to be aware of what you're looking for on an economic calendar are things like FOMC meetings, non-farm payrolls, CPI reports. Now, this PMI could be a potential mover, so it's worth mentioning. But usually, of all the reports, I think that's one of the least important ones. So this is how you learn. You pay attention, you mark it on your calendar, and you say, okay, let's see how the market reacts. But you're not looking for trades. But I don't see any interest rate decisions. I don't see anything with the FOMC. I don't see any Chairman Powell speeches. So it's a relatively quiet week, okay, which is good in terms of trades because you don't have to worry about these binary surprises coming out of nowhere. All right, so that, I think we got that covered. Now, let's get into the chart here. I'm going to make my chart bigger, all right, so that you guys can see it better. Okay, how about this? That's better, like that. All right, now, we have Bitcoin on the chart here. But before I talk about Bitcoin, before I get into that, I want to point out, let's go to the stocks real quick, okay? And then we'll look at some other markets as well. But I want to point out, I got a couple of stocks here. Now, these stocks, UPST, AMC, CTRA, these were all auto setup stocks, okay? Now, so I want to point out, we're going to take just a quick look at AMC and CTRA, right? Now, I want to show you why. This is AMC. Okay, I'm sure many of you are familiar with AMC. Now, this is generally a low float stock, and the auto setup called this thing a long. Okay, now what I want to point out here is when it called it a long. It called it a long on this date right here, which was the 15th. Okay, it called it a long here. Now, keep something in mind. When it called it a long, all right, basically in the channel, right? And you guys who have access to it, you guys can go take a look for yourself. It's still there, all right? It called it along on this day, and here's the thing. The market was bearish. The S&P was not looking so good. Neither was the NASDAQ. It still called this thing a long, and look at the result. So realistically, let's just be realistic about this, right? Where could you have gotten this? If you got this thing, because again, it calls the long after the candle is closed. So you have to look at the next day, right? So if it called it on the 15th, then you have to look at the 16th because that would be your potential entry, right? At the open, at the market open. So if you had just taken that, in this case, the open was at $5.23, $5.23. This stupid stock right now is at $8.19, okay? In basically what, 10 days or something like that? So of course, yeah, sure, I'm cherry picking this one. It's just one of the ones that it called. It called a number of trades, but this was one of them. Okay. So again, people say, well, I don't understand the auto setups. It's called, what it's looking for is it's looking for a momentum reversal. And that's what occurred over here, right? It happened to be a failed low as well. But you have to use some judgment on this. It doesn't lay out the full trade for you. It doesn't say buy here, put your stop here. You have to do that part. So people that, students of mine are better prepared to do that. If you're like brand new, you're not going to know what to do with this information. But the idea was it was called here. Now, let me point something else out because you need to be very aware of quarterly reports with this game. Okay, so CTRA. Okay. It called CTRA as a short, right? It called the short, it was right around here, okay? It was around the 16th or 17th, it called it a short, okay? It's a bearish reversal. Now, since that time, that trade was worth something, okay? But as you can see, it turned around dramatically. This turnaround right here, this right here, that's the result of a quarterly report. So my chart doesn't show the report because I don't have it. I don't have that set on my charts. But if you have that set on your charts, it'll show the letter E will be on the bottom over here. It'll say E. Okay. And that report came out and this thing gapped and look where it is now. So if you had stayed in that short trade, it would be against you. All right. So my point is, when you take these things, they're not like these spectacular, oh, I'm going to hold on for months and I have the biggest winner. It's not like that. These are temporary momentum reversals, temporary. So they're best for options trades, okay, or taking the stock outright, but you have to babysit them. So it requires some judgment on your part. All right, so those were some I wanted to point out. There was another one, WMB. Let's just take a look real quick, okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This was also called the short, okay? This was called the short back. I think it was back here on one of these candles. So it's not going to give you the best price. It's first looking for a short-term trend, and then it's looking for a momentum confirmation. The momentum confirmation means it's moving, okay? So you're not going to get it up here. Now, I'm refining the system so that it can give you a better price, right? So that it's more likely to call it here, but there's a problem with that. And the problem, just like anything else, is markets are random. So there's going to be many instances where it calls it here, and you short it and it keeps going. Okay, so that's why the key to this is your risk management, and that's what brings me to the whole purpose of this stream today is adjusting stops. So I just wanted to point that out on the auto setups. Okay, so let's go to Bitcoin. I'd like to just mention that regularly. In fact, I'm going to make a video with specific instructions on how to use that and looking at these results, because I want people to be able to use this tool. I spent a lot of time putting it together. I'm not a coder, all right, but I found a way to automate this stuff, and I think it's very useful, but you do have to use some judgment, and that's the whole idea. All right, so if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. Let's talk about Bitcoin now, shall we? And by the way, that wasn't an ad. That's just, there are people that have access to that information, and I think, this is a chance at least for me to show you, give you some perspective on it. All right, now, Bitcoin. For those of you that read my article, all right, on yesterday, on TradingView, I mentioned it as a long, right? So let's talk about that, and let's talk about the stop adjustment. Now, first of all, earlier that week, I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday, I called it a short. Now, I don't short Bitcoin, so those of you that have access to that, you saw I put it in there. I put, please note, I do not short this, or I am not taking this trade myself. I made that very clear in the information. Now, I called it a short. It was around 124, 150. See, let's just put that here on the chart, right? It was right here. That was basically the short, okay? Right there, this area right here. This was the price where I put that line, right? Now, I called it short. It was a counter trend, aggressive counter trend short, which I made clear, but it's a failed high and it's a 5-wave completed sequence. So there are a lot of compelling reasons. And on top of that, this thing was struggling. Okay, this thing was just struggling at this 25K level, and I saw 2 sell setups. I saw the first one, which I had not bothered with because I'm like, that's not enough. Then I saw the second one. I'm like, all right, got to take this short. Can't argue with it anymore, right? So I mentioned it as a short, and at its most valuable point, right, which was this low over here, it was worth about 1,000 points. Now the risk on that short was 2,000 points. Right? That's your typical movement on something like Bitcoin. I made that very clear. Now, yesterday, when I was looking at this thing, I saw this. I said, all right, we have a conflicting signal. And that's not exactly something that you should see when you're short, right? So soon, so quickly. This thing, even at 1,000-point profit, which by the way, there's not enough information to exit there at that time. So your chances of taking that profit at the most opportune time are very low. It's pretty much random, right? You have to give the trade a chance. So you're not going to lock it in at 1,000 points. So what do? Well, when you get the conflicting signal, right, which is this, the pin bar followed by the buy signal, when that comes in, that prompts you to make an adjustment. That's where you have to start thinking, okay? Now, there are a number of ways you can go about this. There's no perfect way. You have to decide how you want to manage the risk, and are you willing to accept the risk? So here's the situation, and you're better off in these type of situations because the trade is in your favor. Anyone that took this short, let me know if anyone took this short, by the way, off of that trade that I called. When this thing is green, 1,000 points, you now have some flexibility. You have some choices that you can make. When the conflicting signal shows up, you can call break even, okay? Put your stop, move the stop from minus 2,000 points to now break even. If this thing taps you out at 120, at 24,150 or whatever, you lose nothing from your original capital. All you're doing is giving back profit, okay? You're giving back house money. That's the best position to be in. All right, so I give back money. Who cares? It's the house money. It's not yours, right? Until you lock it in. So you have that option. And the best time to usually do something like that is when it's 1-to-1 in your favor. This never made it 1-to-1, okay? It never made it. So why was I so quick to call break even, which I put out yesterday before I shared my TradingView article? I put the instruction out, just stop to break even, right? Because the thing is, this general trend right now, this short-term trend is bullish. So my mindset is expect less from shorts, expect more from longs, okay? Now, whether that works out that way or not is another story. I'm just trying to align myself with the probabilities of the market. Okay, I don't have any opinions. People make a very big mistake. Oh, I think it's going to do this. Well, this guy, he's an expert trader, and he said it was going to do that. I'm going to believe him. If you do that, you're never going to win. Okay, so I align myself with the probabilities. This thing is generally strong, so I should be aligned with expect more from longs, expect less from shorts. If you're short, that means when the conflicting signal shows up, you need to adjust. So by putting the stop to break even, this is now a risk-free trade. Does that make sense? If you don't believe that that's a risk-free trade, you're never going to get anywhere. Okay, because again, you're only giving back market money. You're not giving back your own money. Now, let me talk about, that's the first decision or the first choice you have, break even. Okay, it's less than ideal as far as when, but the thing is, I saw the conflicting signal, and it's like I don't want to take any risk on the short side if this thing is going to give me a hard time. Again, I'm not short myself, but that's my mentality, and that's the mentality that I want to share with others. Now, the second choice you have here is the take your money, okay? And you could have taken your money on the actual signal, which means you have to babysit this thing. You had the pin bar high was taken out at 23,215. You could have taken your money there, right? And maybe locked in some profit. You could have maybe, if the thing was up 500 points or something, you just take your money. You take your money because there's a conflicting signal in your face and you're mitigating the risk. There's nothing wrong with that. Just understand that the trade-off is what's happening now, okay? Where it reverses the other way, it shakes you out, and this thing may be worth a much bigger value in terms of your profit, okay? It may be worth, so the point here is you have to decide if you want to give the market a chance, which means you're risking all of your profit, or you just rather just take what you can, get out of the thing, and wait for the next signal, right? So those are your two choices. I can't make those decisions for you. I can tell you, when it's a decent time to move the stop. I can tell you other things, but you press the buttons, right? So you have to decide. Now, for people who said, well, I'm going to move the stop to break even and give the market a chance. Okay, so far the market says, hey, good job. Now I'm back on your side because this is now developing into a sell signal. It's not there yet, but it's potentially a new sell signal developing. So for those that are short, that's a good sign. Okay. Now, when I saw this buy signal yesterday, I said I should probably call this a long because the general trend is bullish. I tend to I take long trades. I don't take short trades. So I should go for that buy signal. Also, it's a higher low. All right. We have a support level right here. So I said, okay, let me watch this thing. And I said, I just don't like the lack of complexity. While we have a short-term trend here that's bullish, I do recognize some factors on the bigger picture, which the chart does not tell us. Okay, you do have to consider things like the bond market and stuff like that. And I said, I'd prefer, because I don't like those situations, and I don't really believe Bitcoin is, we're not in a full-blown bull market here. I prefer to see a more complex setup, just like I described back here. Okay, I described that. I never took that trade, but I described it in an article very clearly. I'd like to see something more like that. And this situation right here may lead to that. Okay, so if you're long based on the result of the article that I wrote, because I basically described it as a long and said this thing is a long because there's a bullish signal. But I never called it for my members because I said I'm going to be a little more conservative about it. So that's what you have to realize here. Now, as far as the long goes, I saw an interesting question about moving the stop. Anthony asks here, with BT so long idea, okay, in the article here, I'm going to show that question here. This is what Anthony asks. Why not put the stop loss at the bottom of the recent pin bar for a better reward risk? Okay, so that's a good question, and I'm going to answer that here while I'm on the subject. Putting it here, while structurally that makes sense, the problem with that is your chances of getting stopped out are very high. You have to look at the average true range, basically. I don't like to bring up that number because it's not going to be accurate in terms of what I mean, but it's sort of the idea. Let me explain without confusing people. You have to understand the typical movements of Bitcoin, right? The typical movements. And if it's going your way, right, or if you're generally on the right side, it should not go more than 2,000 points against you. Okay. So if you put your stop, if you got long at 23, what was that number? 215, and you put your stop at 22,770, that's like 500 points or whatever, you're very likely to get stopped out. You can't play that game. You have to give it its typical range, which is about 2,000 points. So you have to basically look at 20K, right? And you have to say, okay, I'm putting the stop there. That's why. Sure, you can get a better reward risk by putting it tighter, but your chances, your probability of getting stopped out is extremely high, okay? When it comes to stops and swing trades, it's a tough balancing act, but you really want to recognize those levels that have a low probability of being reached. This is a probability game, all right? And you have to recognize that. So while in some instances it may make sense to put your stop here, in this situation, and because it's a swing trade, it needs to be wider, okay? And that's why. Just like the short, for the short, I gave that a 2,000 point stop. And then as soon as I could, I moved the stop to break even, right? So even though you may start out with a wide stop, like a 2,000 point stop, it doesn't mean you have to keep it there, right? You can start adjusting when the market gives you the opportunity. Does that make sense? Okay, so I hope that answers your question there. All right, let me just refresh this. I'm going to read what you guys are saying. So that's pretty much my Bitcoin analysis now. If you are long, the stop has to be wide, all right, to see if this is noise or if this movement continues. Keep in mind, if this 5-wave sequence is truly completed, okay, and we're in basically the A wave of a broader wave 2, then we're likely to see 3 legs develop in here. Right, and this section right here, right, basically this section may be 1 leg, this may be the B leg, and there may be 1 more C leg, right, that completes the A wave, the initial A wave of wave 2. All right, then you may have like a broader B wave followed by a broader C wave. Again, we can't make these forecasts with any type of degree of accuracy. All we know is corrective waves typically unfold in 3-wave structures. They could unfold in larger structures than that. It could be a 3-3-5, okay, or a 5-3-5. Like there's all these variations, and there's no way to know in advance. So you have to basically let the market tell you, and you have to adjust. You have to go into this with an open mind, not a closed mind. All right, so no opinions. That's why I say that. That's why even though I see the 5 waves, and I know that up at these levels, the higher probability of a wave 2 is likely, it doesn't mean that it will follow through and be a true wave 2. It doesn't mean that it will. This thing may extend higher, possibly. Markets are irrational. They're not logical, right? So you always have to keep that in mind when you're using things like wave counts. People make that mistake all the time, and they think in absolutes, okay? All right, so I hope that answers your question. Any other questions about Bitcoin? So at this point, if you're long, this is not exactly the candle you want to see. So if you're not happy with this, right, and you want to take this as a conflicting signal, you have to at least let the candle close, and you should let the next candle open. And if it takes out that low right away, that is a sign to make an adjustment. Okay, but initially your risk should be defined here, and then at that point you have to decide: do you want to take that full loss? Do you want to give it a chance, or do you rather just blow it out and just wait for the next long signal, right? In a situation like that. That's all you can do. All right. So, and sometimes that means you have to take some initial losses. You may have to take a loss or 2 before you catch the right move. Right. So that's why, it pays to wait. It pays to be patient and not react to things often. Okay. So let's move along here. So good question. All right. So any other questions about Bitcoin? Let me see what they're saying here on TradingView. Can you look at OMG? Sure. I'll take a look at that. All right. Okay, refresh the screen. Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right, Dubai Kingpin. All right, I've been hearing a lot of things about Dubai these days. Anyway, sounds like a wild place, a fun place, expensive. I heard they have dollar stores in Dubai, but they're not like the dollar stores here in the U.S. See, in Dubai they don't have the dollar store where everything costs $1. They have the $10,000 store where the minimum price of everything in the store is $10,000. Okay. Anyway, that's my joke for today. All right. So let me see what other questions I have here. Can you take a look at JD stock? All right, so I'm going to move on to the stocks. If you guys are clear on this Bitcoin situation, we'll start with the stock. Again, if you want to see like an altcoin or something like that, just make sure you put USD or USDT after that. So this is JD. We're going to start with a weekly chart, JD.com. All right. Now, first things first, let's just zoom out and see what is going on here. So I don't know what you're thinking with this, Alex. Let me just take a look. All right. So it's helpful to separate these structures into trends or categorized into trends based on time. So you can look at a short term, a midterm, and long term. Right? Long term, this is clearly generally bullish. Midterm, this is mixed. This looks like basically like just a consolidation type of pullback, a broader higher low. This is a weekly chart. Okay. And short term would be this section right here. You can say it was bullish, but it broke some supports. Okay. So this is tricky. With the support breaks, that can give it more of a mixed feel, right? So this is the entire structure you're looking at for the short term. When it comes to swing trades, you really need to focus more on on this short term section, but you can use levels from the broader structures. Like for example, look back here. That's a midterm support, and you're at that level right now. Okay, so you have that argument as far as if you're looking for longs. You also have this general structure could possibly be in play, but if it can't recover here, then it's probably a bad idea for a long. You'd be looking for this area here at that point, and that's very questionable. Maybe you get that double bottom situation, but something that's generally strong should not really be revisiting that bottom. And this chart isn't exactly the best looking chart in the world as far as strength goes. Okay, so you are at a potential area for support. Let's take a look at the daily time frame. Okay, and so you can see the pullback. This chart is very sporadic. You know, I'm not a big fan of charts that look like this. But the point is this: you broke this support up here, right? There was a support that's broken. So you have this momentum, right? These lower highs and lower lows that are in play, and you have to respect that until it changes. So there's a conflict here, right? This structure is long, this structure is bullish. This structure, the momentum is bearish, and it's counter. It's a retrace. This structure is broken. Okay, this is broken. So if you're looking for longs, then in a situation like this, because you're now competing with a bearish structure, I think it helps to wait for a more complex setup. Okay, so this is not a good one to take like a single candle, like okay, pin bar, and that's it. You need to see a mini double bottom develop somewhere like at a support level. So somewhere in that area, which means it may take a few days, maybe a week, or otherwise, you know, this thing forms another lower high, even if the double bottom develops and it turns into a lower high and takes out that support, stay away from this thing. Okay, stay away from it until it reaches that next low. These are your main levels. Okay, this one and basically this one, which is broken. So it needs to find a new support and establish that new support in a form of some kind of structural form, and it needs to confirm it. Okay, you're a long way from that. So one for the radar, I'd say, but other than that, doesn't look that great. Okay, it's for longs. So thank you for asking. Let me see what I have over here on TradingView. Let me see what you guys got. OMG. All right, let's take a look. OMG. By the way, before I get to OMG, you guys see, look, this was NEO, right? A week ago. Look at NEO. Right? People were calling this a week ago. They were saying to me, look at NEO, look at NEO. NEO was in this situation right here. Look at the pullback. And now look at this, right? That's why I always tell people, if it's vertical like this, wait for some kind of pullback. And it came. And look at this. I mean, that nice little move that's happening there right now. Can't touch this right now. You missed it. That would have been a good one to call, but of course, after the fact, right? I could say that about all the ones that look good. All right, let's take a look at OMG. OMG, I remember this nonsense coin. Back in the day, this was such a hype coin. And they're still garbage. I'm not a big believer in these altcoins. They're complete garbage, okay, fundamentally. But let's take a look at the chart. Now, keep something in mind with these altcoins. You know, if you're thinking like longer term and you're thinking investing, not a good time, man. Okay, never mind what the chart says. You have to look at the bond market, right? The bond market stinks, right? Rates are still rising. These things don't have much of a chance, first of all, right? As far as long term goes. Second, we haven't even felt the regulation yet, and it's coming. So that's a completely uncertain thing. We don't know how these things are going to change as a result of regulation. And it can be very dramatic. There's no way to know. No one's talking about it. It's off everyone's radar. Where's the regulation? A few months ago with Bankman fraud, they were saying, oh, they're going to regulate this and regulate that and regulate this. Meanwhile, it's very quiet in that area. So you have to keep that in mind when it comes to these altcoins if you're thinking long term. If you're thinking short term, like a swing trade or something like that, okay, no problem. All right, just keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look here at this chart, this broader chart. This is a weekly chart. I want to see levels. I want to see the situation. Nice, the whole market, all the coins have this rally in it, all of them pretty much since January, right? Or since basically the beginning of January. They all have that. Now, I think that little party is over. Look at the weekly pin bar. Also, look at this is a resistance level right there. I just pointed out. That's a resistance level. You have more resistance levels up in here, okay? So this is not a good place to be buying these things. It's just not. It's a high risk area. To take advantage of a move like this, you need to be an insider, or you need to be just willing to take the risk when they look their absolute worst. And that's not easy to do. So if you're not in from these lower prices, you missed the party again. And this is when people, oh, I think it looks good now. Look at this move. I think it's strong now. And all you're doing is taking the risk off of the people, the early buyers, right? You're just taking the risk off of their hand, first of all. Second of all, weekly pin bar, bearish pin bar in a resistance level. Right there, if you take out that pin bar low at 163, this thing is generating a sell signal, okay? And Bitcoin may still be in the process of that corrective wave as well. If Bitcoin has that pullback, all you're going to see are these things retest the lows, okay? And the bond market supports that idea. You may say, well, what does the bond market have to do with these altcoins? The bond market controls everything. The bond market is responsible for everything. And the bond market is where easy money comes from, if there's any easy money in the system. These things, these coins, require easy money. They require speculative money, okay? Cheap money. No cheap money, these things aren't going anywhere. These moves like this are irrational. They're not likely to go anywhere for long when the rising rates start to assert themselves on these markets. Keep in mind, markets are not logical. So everyone thinks like, oh, rates are rising. How come markets aren't selling off? Because it's not a one-to-one relationship. The effect, it takes time for the effect to start to assert itself, right? It builds, and then some catalyst comes out, right? And then they all feel it. So you have to keep that in mind. Do not apply a logical mindset to this. Now, another thing, bearish pin bar on the daily. I guess that's the opening of the week, so I guess that's why you see that. But if that closes like that and takes out that pin bar, I mean, you have a compound sell signal there. I wouldn't go near this thing long, not right now. This structure is a nice bullish structure, but give this thing a chance. This is not a good spot, in my opinion. If Bitcoin follows through, okay, maybe, but you're probably better off waiting for a support that looks like that. But again, this is just what we're looking at here is typically just a repeat of Bitcoin. Okay, it's just that's what we're looking at. So I hope that answers your question about OMG. What else? It was in an uptrend, but currently resistance area. Right. Yeah. So it's just a copy of Bitcoin, right? We can count the 5 waves here too. And if Bitcoin corrects, they're all going to correct in the same fashion. So please keep that in mind. Look at your support levels, like I said, right? Look at your support levels. You have a support here, but man, not in front of that pin bar. I would not be, if I got long here and I saw this pin bar, I would not be too happy about that. Like I would be looking like maybe I should just take the loss. You're better off taking the loss while it's small than sitting in it and hoping, okay? Because you're assuming all that risk. And if this thing has a more dramatic pullback, then you get stuck in it. All right, so I hope that answers your question. That was OMG. Again, just another hype coin, as most of them are. I'm not, I don't want to tell people that you shouldn't trade them. Just understand what you're dealing with, okay, and understand the risks that you face. Okay, James, euro for a long. Oh, James, from London. Oh dear, London. My Londoners. Okay, my bad British accent. So when you, let's take a look at the euro first. Okay. Now, when you're going to look at the euro, it really, you do yourself a favor and look at the dollar. Okay. This is really what you should look at first is the dollar index because this is the inverse of the euro, and the dollar is pretty much the lead. All right. It's the world reserve currency. Now, what's happening? So you're thinking euro long. Okay, so that means dollar should be short. Let's see if dollar agrees with that. Well, you have a resistance area on the dollar. That's for sure. You have this potential pullback developing. You have this. Is that an inside bar? Let me see. It's not exactly an inside bar, but it's almost. If this candle closes like this on the dollar and takes out that low, you will have a sell signal. Just keep in mind though, it's a sell signal off a resistance. It's sort of like that Bitcoin situation. The problem though is you're dealing with this structure right here, right? That structure right there is bullish. So the sell signal may not go very far. So again, if you want to go for it, understand it's aggressive, right? So this would translate to euro long. Understand that it's aggressive, number one. Number two, understand that you're fighting the bond market. All right, let's take a look at the bond market real quick. 10-year note, right? This is what I look at, 10-year note futures. So this is the bond market, right? It moves very slow and it takes a long time for things to change here. But as you can see, right, bond prices recently have pulled back into this area. It broke this support, which means rates have risen because the price is inverse to the rates. And we're back in this area here. It's generally a support area for the bond market, and it's trying to be bought. As you can see, there's a red candle there, inside bar situation, but this momentum is bearish, okay? If this continues lower, the dollar is not going to have any choice but to go higher, which means your euro long is not going to go very far. So you have to keep that in mind. You're fighting this, okay? So if this turns and goes higher, then you'll be okay. If this thing turns and goes higher, then that euro long should work out, okay? That will help things go more in your favor. If this thing continues onto those lows, that euro long is not going to go very far, okay? So with all that being said, so I'm not opposed to the euro long idea. I just want you to understand what can go wrong, okay? So this general structure is the inverse of the dollar, and it's generally, look, you have a support over here, right? You have all that going for you. You have the candle reversal taking place. So it's worth a try. I'd say it's definitely worth a try, but if it fails, like if the euro long makes it like up into this area or something like that and gives you a hard time and turns, you have a lower high, and you see that bond market pushing lower, that's your sign to not expect much more from that, okay? Because the euro will not likely make it up here if that's the case. So there's no way we can forecast these things. All we can do is look for confirmations and look for follow through or lack of follow through. If we get lack of follow through and we get a conflicting signal, it calls for adjustment. You have to keep your mind open to those ideas. That's really, if there's any skill involved, that's the skill. Because I'm a big proponent of the efficient markets hypothesis, which is as basically means you can't beat a financial market these days, an efficient market. And it's only getting more true, not less true, as markets become more and more efficient, as technology improves and everyone has access to all the information. You can't beat this game. Everyone, basically, it says all the known information in the world is priced into the price now, okay, even inside information. So that's a very, very important, whenever a beginner comes to me and says, what should I learn first? That's what I tell people. All right, because basically, if you can understand that, you'll save yourself a lot of time with gimmicks that people try to push on you and they try to lure you into thinking that they have some kind of magical thing, which implies they have an advantage when they don't, which means all the trades are random, okay? So most of the time, our trades are 50-50, right? And when you add the cost into that, you're looking at a bearish equity curve, right? So can you beat the market? It's possible. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. And if you're using conventional methods and you don't understand what an advantage looks like or what an inefficiency looks like, you have no chance. Okay, you're just basically random like everyone else. and using conventional methods like, RSIs and all other nonsense. If you're using that kind of stuff, remember, everyone is using the same thing. If you're consuming the same information everyone else is using, you have absolutely no advantage whatsoever. Okay, so it's not an easy game. All right, let me move along here. So as far as the euro long, I mean, I agree with it. I would call something like that. In fact, maybe I will call it. But just keep in mind everything I just said of what can go wrong. All right, good question. Let me move along here. Okay, I'm just going back to the chat. Let me read the chat. All right, so that was OMG. Okay, cool. What do you consider opening? Would I consider opening a copy trade account on Bybit? I've looked into those copy trade things, okay? Like BitGet and Bybit and all these other ones, Bit whatever. I've looked into them. And let me tell you, the idea is interesting as far as being able to give people a way to copy my trades, but I don't like the platforms. They're very questionable, just as far as the way they do things. And you look at like these results that they show, and everyone is up 1,000%. I don't know. There's a lot of red flags. Okay. So, and again, if they're sort of, I haven't read all the fine print, but if they're taking the other sides of your trades, what's going to happen is if I take a trade and I get in and out these certain prices, you're never going to get those exact prices. And you're always basically, it's going to be harder for you to make money. I don't know. I'm not sold on those things yet. For copy trades, there are other providers of that I do think provide an actual, they do provide it the right way, but really there's only like one, and they allow you to bring your own platform and they integrate with it, right? That's how it should be. I should not be forced to use a MetaTrader account or to use their order entry. I should be able to bring my own platform. But these like Bybit and all them, you're stuck with their garbage, right? I prefer to use my own platform. That's a big problem. All right. So anyway, but I have looked into that, and I will continue to research that. I'm not completely opposed to it, but if I get involved in that, it's not going to be with Bitcoin, because I don't like the exchanges. I just don't like what's going on there, and I think a lot of it is, someone's going to have to show me some real numbers on that, and because if I get involved in that, you have to understand something. I would get paid on your volume, right? That's the incentive for me. But how would you make money? And if I'm going to place trades and you're not going to make money, then I'm not going to do it. Okay? Because the whole benefit is for you to benefit from my experience and my knowledge. And if you're just going to lose, then you can just do that for yourself. I'm not going to risk my reputation on that nonsense. So they're really going to have to prove it to me. And trust me, I've gotten tons of offers. I just ignore them now because they just don't look right to me. Okay, anyway, good question. Okay, sir, what do you think about USD SGD? I think that it's a bearish double top. Okay, let's take a look. USD, isn't that the Singapore? Yeah, Singapore dollar. Bearish double top. Okay, so this is the dollar. It's basically, forget the Singapore side. This is basically the US dollar. Okay, that's what we're looking at here against the Singapore dollar. So there's no double top here. Okay, when you refer to double top, I see what you're referring to. You're basically looking back here, but that's not a double top. The double top would have to occur within the proximity of the first top, like up here. That's a double top. Okay, it occurred within the proximity, within a small number of candles, right? This here you can argue is a double top. All right, this is a double top, sort of. This is not a double top. It's just a single peak, okay? So I would not agree with that. But the thing is, again, this is the dollar situation. There is a resistance here. So everything that I explained about the dollar would apply to this. Same with the opposite of euro. So is a single candle there. If you're thinking the short, okay, I get it. But keep in mind, you're fighting this momentum, just like with the dollar. It's the same deal. And that can go wrong. It can go wrong, all right? Dollar weak, dollar bearish means you're looking for bond rates. You're looking for rates to be pulling back. I don't see rates pulling back exactly, right? If rates can't pull back, This is not going much lower. So you want to take that chance. Just understand what can go wrong. I mean, at this point right now, I would not call that a short right now. I'd rather go long the euro. Okay, which is, you could think of it, it's the same trade. But yeah, I don't, I don't know. I don't like this. I just don't like the single candle. The euro sort of has a single candle too. I mean, look, they're pretty much inverse to each other, right? It's pretty much the same trade. But I do like this area on the euro here because look, there's just more price action there. I do like that. Okay, so as far as the euro goes, but again, if they all turn the wrong way, if the dollar can't pull back, this thing is just gonna turn and start testing lower prices. You just have to be prepared to get out if this thing is wrong. So I guess we can conclude it's the same trade. I just prefer the euro, all right, as the long. So anyway, thank you for asking. Let me jump over to the other one. So is that you, SGT? All right, let me move along. Okay, Levant, Peter, good to see you. STG USDT. All right, on Binance. All right, let's take a look. STG USDT, Binance. Okay, interesting. So I'm not familiar with this coin. First thing, let's take a look at the weekly chart. This looks like, I mean, it must be relatively new to Binance. There's not a whole lot of data here. This is a nice move, right? Again, this looks like it coincides. Yeah, this coincides with the Bitcoin rally from January, pretty much. All right. So in this situation, yeah, you have, here's what you have here. You have a failed high area, right? Very similar to Bitcoin. So in a situation like this, this is not, in my opinion, and very similar to NEO too. If you're not long right now on this move, like if you're still waiting to get in, don't waste, just don't, it's not worth it. I don't think it's worth chasing these things because Bitcoin is in a vulnerable area. And if Bitcoin fails, all these moves right here are going to fail. So the more probable thing to do, and this is basically what I was waiting for on Bitcoin myself, wait for the more complex double bottom to develop in this area. We don't have that. We just have a single push off, which may go somewhere. But the thing is, look what's happening right now, right? That's a bearish pin bar developing. It's not closed. If it closes and takes out the low, then it kind of cancels out the whole thing. So look, either way, never get antsy about these. Never feel like you're missing out because you're not. If there's going to be a sustained move, if these things are going to make a new high, most likely there will be a continuation pattern somewhere along the way, okay, which will allow you to take a reasonable risk, right? You could just jump in now, but the thing is, your risk is kind of high right now. Why not wait to see if you can get a better price? If you can't get a better price, maybe this thing will give you an inside bar or some other reason to get long again, right? And that's what I want to see. I don't see that. I don't see like a compound buy pattern. So, what is a compound buy pattern? It's something like sort of like this right here, okay, which was the same situation in Bitcoin, sort of, where it pulls back a second time. And I mean, and look at this. I mean, inside bar right there, right? So that's what I mean by like a compound pattern. There's two things going on here, not just one. Right here, there's only one thing going on here, okay? And in this environment, I prefer more confirmation rather than less because this is not generally a bullish environment. So any kind of bullish talk, I know some high profile people came out recently and said Bitcoin's going to 100,000 or 10 million or whatever nonsense they come out with. Understand something about high profile people. They don't owe you anything, okay? So when they come out and they say these things, they're most likely pushing some kind of agenda that's going to benefit them, not you. So when you sit there and, oh, this person said this, or they're respected, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter who says it. If they're high profile and they're putting it in the public domain, it's not for your benefit. That's the way you have to look at it. Maybe randomly it works out, but it's not for your benefit. Now, if they called you privately themselves and they said, hey, man, I'm going to tell you something. Now, that's another story because you're the only one who knows, right? But when everyone knows it's worthless information, they just do it for whether propaganda, to promote their profile, to promote whatever they're doing. There's an agenda behind it, and it's not for your benefit. Please, if you're going to take anything away from that, please understand that. It's amazing to me. Even some people that I've trained come to me, oh, this guy said this. You still believe them? You have to be able to make your own judgments, and you have to be able to assess your own risk. Forget what others say. There's been plenty of instances when these experts are completely wrong. And they lure a lot of people into these positions. A lot of people lose money. And then somehow they all forget that. And wasn't this the same moron that called this a year ago the wrong way? Everyone forgets. Okay, it's because people would rather be lied to, right? That's why they have such a short-term memory. Or the people that lose all their money, they just quit and they're replaced by new ignorant morons that are going to believe these people. Never believe people in the public eye. Please make your own judgments. Okay, so anyway, sorry, that was my rant for today. Let's move along here. So that's STG, okay? Very similar to like some of these other ones we looked at here, like NEO and all them. All right. Hey, Elijah, how are you? Travel, good to see you. Alex, yeah, I was looking for a longer JD because it's an interesting level. Okay, all right, that makes sense, Alex. Well, 618, that's still reasonable as far as the long goes. Okay, okay, waiting for something like okay, no problem. Avi from Israel, how are you? Shop. Okay, let's take a look. Shop. See, I remember my followers. I remember where they're from. All right, so shop. I thought so. Shopify. So let's take a look at the weekly chart first. So now Shop is like a well-known stock, right? It's not like a no-name stock. So that can be important as far as like momentum and follow through. I don't know when their quarterly report is. You definitely want to be aware of that. Here's the weekly chart, right? Now, obviously, you have to understand in a rising rate environment, stocks feel a lot of pain. And as we know, over the previous year, we've had a rising rate environment. And this is a nice reflection of that. It was a high of 170, 176. Today, it's at $40. So a lot of value wiped out there, right? For whatever reason. But coincidentally, we were in a rising rate environment. Now, this thing's been trying to come back a bit. A lot of stocks look like this for January. Notice, Bitcoin looks similar too. January is typically a bullish month for these things, right? And they say, however January goes, blah, blah, blah. But I never get caught up in those opinions either. We're still in a rising rate environment so far, okay? And the Fed has not really come out and given us any real concrete clarity as far as they just said maybe we're going to raise but less at a lower pace. They haven't said this. They haven't said that they stopped, and they haven't said that they're going to start lowering rates. They have not said any of that, right? So we have to assume rates are going to continue to rise, and they're going to have generally a bearish effect. Now, with all that being said, you have this pullback here. Maybe you're thinking long. You're at a level. I'll give you that, right? You have a potential level there, but like you are fighting the environment. So please keep that in mind. Now let's look at the daily chart here, right? Let's make this a little bigger. So you're at the support. You have a pullback. You have a potential. You have the right area. Okay, it's certainly an attractive area. There's no reason to go long at this moment, right? You don't even have a green candle here. You have a potential inside bar. This is the market closed, so you have an inside bar. If the high of that inside bar is taken out, you can argue that you have like a little mini failed low here. So you can consider that a long, right? 41.51 would be the high of the candle. So you would be looking at that as your entry possibly. Your stop would probably have to go a little bit lower than 39.74, just to give it some room, because this thing still has some room to fool around, right? Keep in mind, you're dealing with this bearish leg of momentum, right? It may be changing here. You are at a potential support level, so you're certainly not buying the high. Just keep in mind, respect the momentum, right? So if you want to go for the long, okay, like I would agree with it, but just remember, if it gives you the conflicting signal right away, be prepared to adjust, right? Take the small loss or a small gain, and it's just not worth trying to give it a chance. It's just not worth it because we're not in that type of environment where people can get away with hope. Okay, so I like there are some redeeming factors here. Just understand, like let me just give you another example. If this thing gives you a long signal and it can't get beyond this point right there, which is what price is that? That's around 42.83. If it can't get beyond 43 and it gives you a hard time, that's a red flag. Okay, because if it's a long, it should have no problem taking that resistance out. All right. Of course, it'd be nice if the Nasdaq agreed with you, and that's always something you should. When it comes to stocks, you should be taking a look at things like the Nasdaq and comparing it. Look at the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq's pulled back recently. The Nasdaq is trying to find support at a level where support is likely. There's an inside bar. It's trying to be bought. You see that? But with a bond market that's not helping, this may not go very far. So you do have some NASDAQ support, which is helpful. But what if the NASDAQ rallies a bit and then it fails again, like over here in this area, and the bonds start pushing lows? That's going to be your sign that, this market's probably not in free bullish mode yet. Does that make sense? Okay, so good question. I hope that helps. Shopify. Gold. Levant wants to see gold. Okay, let's take a look. XAU, USD. So gold, look, you're playing the dollar game here. Okay, playing the dollar game. Gold was like on fire. Everyone, oh, gold's going to 5,000 again, and all that other nonsense. And then dollar rallies, and then gold goes back into its place, right? So, look, as far as gold goes, I have a problem with gold because it's so sensitive to everything, right? But look, you are at a support level. This is basically the euro, right? This is the euro trade. This is the counter dollar trade again. So everything that I said about the dollar, everything that I said about the euro is basically going to apply to gold. If you're interested in gold as a long, okay, you have a chance here. This is not exactly the best signal at this moment. But let me just point something out, okay? So you have a support level, yes, right? So we have that. This is not exactly an inside bar, but it's trying. If it takes out the high 1820, you'll have your buy signal, right, by tomorrow. But let me just point something out. Look at this beautiful bullish pin bar on gold, which occurred like a week ago off of an attractive level. And that pin bar went absolutely nowhere, okay? So this may be a compound buy setup. This situation is a better setup to consider than the single pin bar. That's why I'm been so hesitant to take these. And now you understand why, because then you get this, right? You're better off waiting for this. You won't get it all the time, but you're better off waiting for it. Now you have a compound buy signal, right, at a support level. It's much more attractive. So if you're going to go long gold, and you need euro to follow through, you're going to need that dollar to pull back. Then you're looking at targeting maybe this area right here, that midpoint. That's a pretty good reward risk, right? You're looking at maybe putting your stop below 18 even. The low here is 1806. You'd want to put your stop at like, maybe 1795 or something. You have to give it a little room, right? 20 to 30 points on gold is typical for a swing trade. And then you're targeting like what is this, 1880s, 1890s, something like that. That's decent reward risk. Okay, it's not bad. So I would agree with that. But don't take all the trades. Like, don't take all the same trade. Like that euro trade and this gold trade, they're the same trade. That USD SGD trade, it's the same trade. So you don't want to take all the same trades. You might as well just buy more shares or more contracts or whatever, more units of the similar trade. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's move along here. Good question. Got shop, got gold. Okay. Moon. Okay. Moon Carl. Oh, okay. Yeah. I can tell just by the name. All right. Let's take a look here at what else we got. Some other questions. Just going through the chat. All right. So I see XRP. What do you think of XRP? XRP is one of the, I see that symbol a lot because it's one of the top 10 capitalized currencies, right? And it's on my auto setups for the coins. That, by the way, I should have running this week. I'm making some adjustments to it. This one pops up a lot because it's on the list. All right. It only focuses on the top 10 coins. This is one of them. So let's take a look at the weekly chart. Now, again, something like XRP, look at this thing. It's struggling. You have a consolidation here. You see this? This is going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. It can't get out of its own way. As far as a long goes, I just have a hard time with it here. Okay, it's not exactly at a support level. You have to look at these weekly levels first because they're going to carry more weight. Look at the support level here, right? That's really what you want to look at, which is what, 30 cents, somewhere around there. So wait, you might as well wait. Right, this market's not going anywhere. Right now it's at what, 37 cents. So if you're looking for longs, give it a chance to pull back. You also have a weekly bearish pin bar in place from the previous week, and it's taken out the low. barely, but it has, right? So there's a sell signal in place on the weekly time frame. Give it a chance to pull back if you're thinking of swing trades. As far as investing goes, I mean, these are probably better. Something like XRP is probably better for a long-term hold because its movements are generally not very dramatic. I mean, you'd have to really throw around a lot of size. So wait for a more opportune level. There's other much better coins to trade if you're looking for short-term trades. As far as long-term, you're basically at the mercy of Bitcoin here. And this, of course, is one of the more, this one has all the SEC drama going on with it. So the regulation may affect this one in particular. I don't know. It's just my guess. Okay, so thank you for asking. That was XRP. All right. From Shanghai. Oh, welcome. I don't get too many people from Shanghai. I began to prepare for the CMT exam this year. Oh, really? Oh, inspired by me. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's a great experience. I can tell you that. It will open your eyes to a lot of things that you will not otherwise be exposed to. And it's definitely a great way to build your foundation. I can say all those great things. It's a good organization too. I mean, they pretty much, they protect that title very well. No one could just come out and say, oh, I'm a CMT, because they'll come after you in 2 seconds. So they do preserve the quality of it. And yeah, so nice. Thank you for sharing. All right, cool. All right, from Obiam, from where? Oh, Colombia. Ah, mucho gusto. New to your channel, welcome. All right, yeah, I can speak some Spanish. ¿Cómo te va? All right, cool. Thanks for joining. From Colombia. All right, let me see what else I got here. So, do you value RSI on the higher time frames? Okay, that's a good question about the RSI. I don't use that. Okay, it's interesting. I can understand why people would look at those. Basically like the higher low on the RSI and the lower low on price or whatever. They can open your eyes to some potential opportunities, but there's no advantage to using them, right? So I prefer less complexity. They have a place. I think something like that is helpful in the scanning world, which I've been experimenting with things like that because they can help isolate certain situations. But you do need further confirmation. You cannot take a trade just on that alone. Does that make sense? But it does give you some perspective, but you have to combine it with other things. I'll say that much. Okay. Okay, cool. So hope that answers your question. OPUSDT. Okay, OP. Let's take a look. OPUSDT. What is that? Let's take a look. OP against Tether. So let's go to the weekly chart. This thing, here's the thing. So look, a lot of these coins obviously benefited from that Bitcoin move, right? That's all that right there. That's the Bitcoin move. I think it suckered a lot of people into thinking we're in a new bull market. You combine that with all the frauds, on all these platforms calling for a new bull market and blah, blah, blah. There's no new bull market. Look at the bond market. That's your answer. Okay. Most of these people don't even know what the bond market is. Double top. All right. Some guy mentioned double top before. This is more, if you're looking for a bigger picture double top, that's a bigger picture double top right there. So you have that situation. I wouldn't be buying this thing here. That's for sure. If you're interested in a long, here's the thing. Wait for supports. This structure is bullish, but everything is bullish right now as far as these structures go. With the double top, it's telling you this is a risky area, first of all. So if you're going to get involved, at least give it a chance to test support again. All right, at least. Maybe even more ideal, maybe you get a failed low, right, where it goes lower and people overreact, and you can get involved there as far as a swing trade goes. Those are the areas I look for, okay? And I'm willing to wait. And if the market never goes there, I go look for something else, right? There's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of markets to get involved in. You don't have to focus on just one. So this area here, not good for longs. If you are long, good place to reduce risk. That's all I can say about this, right? Identify your support levels, right? Which is basically going to be this area here. And then set a notification up on your charting platform and wait for it to get there. Okay, and if it never gets there, then adjust, right? There'll be other opportunities. So thank you for asking. I have to just move a little faster here because I'm getting tight on time. All right. Cool. Let me see. ASM, please. ASM and Nikkei. What is that? ASM, is that a coin? If you can clarify on that. Shumi says, Mahal from, another one from Romania. I'm getting famous in Romania again, Alex. I used to have a lot of Romanians following me. Not anymore. They don't like me anymore. But Alex still likes me. He's still here. He's my only Romanian left. But I got Shumi. All right, Shumi, what do you think about ASTR? I've been watching it for a long time, and it seems like a good opportunity, long term. ASTR. Now, again, is that a stock or is that a coin? I'm going to take a look at the stock real quick. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see if there's a coin. ASTR. Hold on a second here. ASTR. Is it a coin? Let me see here. It is a coin. Okay. See, that's why I double check now, because you got to tell me. You got to tell me if it's a coin. Otherwise, I'll look at the stock for 3 hours. All right. So ASTR. Actually, let me see something here. ASTR USD. All right. So you have it on Binance. Okay. So here's the Binance chart right here. Let's take a look at a weekly. Right. So how high was this thing? This thing was as high as 23 cents and as low as 4 cents, right? That's a story for most of these garbage coins. This is a garbage coin, all right? First of all, I mean, look at this. Someone got caught in this nonsense. So again, just reacting to the Bitcoin surge, right? You have a inside bar on the weekly. The low is taken out. There is a sell signal in effect right now. How far will the sell signal go? I don't know. So you're thinking it's maybe as a buy for a long term. If you're thinking long term, look, you can always accumulate small and see how it behaves, but you don't want to pile into this thing. Most likely, you're going to see lower prices before you see higher prices. Identify your supports. What is this? 06? What is that? 006. So basically around 6 or 7 cents. That's your next support on this thing, right around this area here. So if you're thinking long term, then think accumulation. Buy small. First, figure out how much you want to invest. Buy small. See how it behaves. If it goes lower, you buy a little more. If it goes lower, you buy a little more. If it keeps going lower, you don't keep buying. You're in and you say, let me hold off. Let me wait for some stability, right? You don't go all in because this thing may go to zero. It can happen, okay? So just keep that in mind. The general structure here is bullish, but we have to be careful of this, right? Everyone's judging this, and I'm judging it too. I'm saying, okay, general structure bullish, but fundamental environment not exactly friendly. So you're better off waiting for pick some support levels and give it a chance to get there, right? And if you don't want to wait, like I said, small size. If you're thinking long term, if you're thinking short term swing trade, there's nothing there right now. I wouldn't touch this yet. You have a bullish pin bar, but I don't like this yet. This is almost a complex setup, but it's just not there. Okay. But you mentioned long term, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about a swing trade. All right. Let's move along here. Let me see here. So hope that answers your question. I appreciate your advice. I appreciate that. S Billions. Well, I try. I've been streaming for a while. I'm nowhere near as popular as a lot of these frauds. I tell it like it is. Also, it's partly my fault. I'm not very good at marketing, although I'm improving and I'm working on producing more content that's more, content that's more productive, I could say, or more effective for what I'm trying to do. So I'm working on that. But these streams, for example, you watch them now, maybe some people watch them after, and that's it. Like these other guys who are much more clever, but the content they produce, they instill hope, it's positive, blah, blah, blah. But if you follow what they're saying, only you're going to lose money. Meanwhile, they have hundreds of thousands of followers. They don't even have to produce videos, right? They make the money off the ad revenue. It's ridiculous. And they're frauds on top of it. So that's the way it is. That's the nature of this business. But anyway, I'm aware of it. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. It's nice to hear that people appreciate what I do. I don't get that. I don't get that. I get that sometimes, so I'm not going to say I don't get that at all. Thank you. All right, let's move along. So optimism, please. Yes, right. Optimism, hope, never get you anywhere. You have to be realistic. Okay, Dubai, Link USDT, double bottom. Link, let's take a look. LINK USDT. All right, a few more, and then I'm going to go. Double bottom, man, not on this chart. If you're looking at a smaller time frame, I can see that, right? I can see you looking at this here. Like if I look at this on a 1 hour chart or something smaller, yeah, I'll see that. But this is not a double bottom. No way. Not on this time frame. The bigger time frames carry more weight. You can't go by a double bottom like on a 30-minute chart. You have a support level here. Okay. Yes, I agree with that. There's absolutely no reason to go along this. In fact, there's a fake out, just like the other chart we just looked at. You have a pin bar over here. Okay. And it's turned around. No way. No reason to buy this. These things are right now, they're poised to break their supports. So you have to watch the support level here, right? You have to watch this support level over here. That's it. Watch the levels, wait for confirmation. I don't like this chart at all. All right. There's better looking charts. NEO looks better than this. But they're all basically in the same situation. If Bitcoin rallies, these things will generally turn around. But there's just nothing here yet. Understand that Bitcoin is the leader, not this. This is just a follower. So I wouldn't go near this. All right. It's just there's just nothing there. So you have a level, but you don't have anything else. So thank you for mentioning. All right, couple more. All right, so Ethereum. Okay, let me just see what else I have here. Have you seen Elliott Wave? Yes, I have. No foreign. I have seen that. I'm not impressed. Like it's a good effort, but it still can't. It still doesn't. It can't account for context, right? That's the problem. So maybe it's good for scanning for certain things, but you still have to use your judgment. You can't depend on that thing at all, right? But that's the case. It's too complex, and they're not going to give it, something like that at a retail level. They're not going to give you something that can really see just beyond a couple of formations on a chart, right? So you still have to use your judgment on that. But it's a good starting point, especially if you don't know how to count the waves. Maybe it can at least help you sort through them a little bit better. But it's best to keep it as simple as possible, like I teach my students. If you have time, flow, okay? Is coin, please? Okay, so I covered ASM. I covered that. All right, cool. So flow. All right, let me see what I have here. Hey, Dom, how are you? Can you elaborate more on what you mean or look for in complex? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. All right, so let's first look at flow. Flow USD. All right. So again, like a lot of these coins, look at this. So you have this move, general structure here. Look at this long-term structure. This looks like garbage for one. All I see are lower highs, right? You have a potential lower high, failed high situation right here. This is the weekly chart, okay? If this current candle, the red candle, actually this 110 area, whatever, something like that, if that gets taken out, you have a sell signal on the weekly. All right. Again, this is following Bitcoin. If we go to the daily chart, same situation. Look at this. So it tried to find a bottom, right? It tried to rally off that bottom like many coins. Even Bitcoin was showing this, and it's turning. Okay. This is not what you should see if you're long for the higher low. Now, these general structures, this structure is generally a bullish structure, but it doesn't mean it won't change. And when it changes, it's not going to tell us, like if this is the change right here, we're not going to know that until it breaks certain levels. So we're only going to know after the fact if a top or a bottom is in place. Like if this is the top, we're only going to know until supports are cleared, right? Which takes time, and it's going to be at much less opportune prices if you were thinking short. My point is this: there's nothing here, right? You have a level. A lot of these things are retesting these are like your primary or initial support levels. A lot of these are being tested. If they break, you're looking at your secondary supports, which is the next one. Okay. On something like this, you're looking at 98 cents. You can round that to $1. All right. And see if you get more of a complex reversal there, right? For a possible swing trade long. But right now, I don't like it. Wouldn't go near that. All right. Again, but Bitcoin, you have to take Bitcoin as the lead. So as I wrap this up, let's go back to Bitcoin. See, look, Bitcoin is doing the same thing. It tried to rally a bit, and now it's giving the conflicting signal. If I have not gotten long. If I had gotten long this, okay, I waited a bit, I would not be happy. If I was long, I wouldn't jump out of this thing right now. I would just, let me see how this candle goes, right? If the candle closes and we take out the low, that's when I'm going to have to make a decision. Either blow it out or just give it a chance to go to the stop, okay, at that point. But at this point, there's nothing to do here, right? Anyway, so let's talk. So I see a question here from Dom. Elaborate about the complex pattern. So there are single reversals, right? Like this pin bar. See this bullish pin bar right here? That's a single candle reversal. There's only one candle there. There's nothing complex about that. It's one single candle. And then you have something like this, which is like a compound reversal, or there's more candles involved. You can see there's a pin bar there too. But that pin bar, there was other action before the pin bar, right? You see that? The low was touched. This low was touched here. In fact, I'll draw a little rectangle there. The low was touched here, right? See that? And then the low was touched here again. So it's a double bottom, right? So double bottom, triple bottom, that kind of thing. That's a complex reversal because it takes time. There's candles in between those two bottoms, right? I mean, look at this situation here. Kind of similar, but it broke, right? You could have argued, oh, look, double bottom, blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's true of this entire section. And it tried to rally and it broke. That's going to happen, okay? So, but if you're going to take the trade, you're better off taking the trade here, right? And having it break on you so you can get out of it right away rather than going long up here. Do you see that variation? Most people they put their Captain Obvious hat on. No, I'm going to buy a breakout because my favorite fraud guru told me to buy the breakout. And you buy the worst absolute price. And then you have to bang it out here and take a big loss, right? Rather than you bought it here in this section. And yeah, you still have to bang it out, but for a much smaller loss. That's part of managing your risk. Okay, does that make sense? So I hope that answers your question about complex and simple reversals. Simple reversals are more appropriate for very strong trends, right? Like when I say very strong trend, I'm talking everything is in line. Like we had in 2021 before the peak. When interest rates were in line, structure was in line, momentum was in line. Like that's, you want to take single structures and be aggressive. That's the environment for it. This is not the environment. It may still work, right? There's some single candle reversals here, but you're better off waiting for the complex ones. In fact, it's just basically looking for more confirmation. All right, you guys. So I've been talking way too long, and I hope you guys got some value out of this. I really work hard to provide you with the ability to form better judgments and manage your risk. That is the whole point of this game. This is a very tough game to play, and it's the most deceptive business in the world, okay? And my goal here is to help you guys recognize that and be able to see through the nonsense and make better judgments for yourself. If you can't do that, you will never have confidence, and you will always miss opportunities that you otherwise may have given it a chance if you understood what the risk was and how to adjust, right? That's where confidence comes from. That's what allows you to step into something, and if it's not working, okay, I gave it a chance, I'm blowing it out, and doing it with confidence rather than, oh, I don't know, oh, I need it to be perfect, and then you miss the whole move. Look, I'm guilty of that. That happens sometimes, but and I have pretty good judgment. But I've learned that over time, you're better off being patient. You're better off missing moves than being caught on the wrong side all the time. And I have to be especially careful and responsible because I'm the one I'm sharing this with other people. If it's my own stuff, okay, I made a mistake, I lose my own money. But other people can lose money as a result of what I say, and I'm very careful about that. It's not perfect. People are going to lose. I'm going to have losing trades. I always tell people this is for educational purposes only, but you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so anyway, I hope you guys get some value out of this. Do me a favor, press the like button or press the whatever button here on TradingView, the thrust button or whatever the little thing is. Press the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. I am going to be producing more relevant content that'll be not just these streams. I'm looking to produce more than that, and something that'll be helpful and beneficial to your development process as well. Okay, so do me a favor, press those buttons because it helps me with the channel. So thank you so much, everyone. I really hope you got something out of the stream. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Okay, and also make sure you check the links in the description. I do have a free Discord server and all that other stuff, and there's a lot of great information there for free members. Okay, so please make sure to check that out. You guys have any questions, you know where to go. All right, so I want to say, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you very much for watching.